Good morning, children. You are welcomed in this e-learning session of Class 6 Biology. In this video, you will learn about the first part of Chapter 2, Plant Life, the Flower. The main learning objectives of this module are the flower, parts of a flower, types of flowers, functions of a flower, pollination, and types of pollination. Children, do you know what is a flower? A flower is the reproductive part of a plant. It is attached to the stem by a long stalk called pedicel. The tip of the pedicel is slightly flattened and is called thalamus. All other parts of a flower arise from the thalamus. Let us know about the parts of a flower. Each flower has four main parts known as whorls: calyx, group of sepals; corolla, group of petals; androecium, male flower part; and gynoecium, female flower part. What is calyx? It is the outermost whorl of a flower. It is usually green in color. It is made up of green leaf-like structures called sepals. It encloses and protects the flower in the bud stage. What is corolla? It is the second whorl of a flower. It is brightly colored, large scented structure. It also secretes nectar, and due to its bright color, insects sit on it and helps in pollination. It also protects other essential parts of a flower. Androecium. It is the third whorl and the male reproductive part of a flower. It consists of filament-like structures called stamens. Each stamen has two main parts, filament and anther. Filament is a long and narrow stalk which supports the anther. Anther is small and bilobed structure which bears the pollen grains that take part in the reproduction of the flower. Gynoecium. It is the fourth innermost whorl and female reproductive part of the flower. It is composed of one or more carpels or pistil. Each carpel has three main parts: stigma, style, and ovary. Stigma is the topmost sticky part of a carpel where the pollen grains land at the time of pollination. Style is the long tube-like structure which ends in a swollen part called ovary. Ovary contains female reproductive cells called ovules. Do you know, children, a flower which has all the four parts, calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium present in it, is called complete flower. But a flower in which any one of the part is absent is called incomplete flower. On the basis of the presence and absence of male or female parts, flowers are of mainly two types. Bisexual flower. It contains both the male part and female part. For example, rose and hibiscus. Unisexual flower. It contains either male part or female part. For example, papaya flower. Children, do you know what is the function of a flower? A flower serves an important function in plants, that is reproduction. There are two steps in this process: pollination and fertilization. What is pollination? The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of same type of plant is known as pollination. What are the types of pollination? There are two types of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination: the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant is known as self-pollination. This type of pollination occurs naturally. Cross-pollination: the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same type is known as cross-pollination. It occurs through the external pollinating agents. The different agents of cross-pollination are wind, water, and insects. Pollination by wind. Some plants, like maize and wheat, have dry and light pollen grains produced in large quantity. As the flowers of these plants get matured, pollen grains are blown away by the wind. Some of these pollen grains fall on the stigma of a flower of the same type. At the time pollination takes place. Pollination by insects. Insects like bee and butterfly collect nectar from flowers. When these insects sit on a flower, the pollen grains stick to their bodies. When they visit another flower, the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma. At that time, pollination takes place. Pollination by water. In aquatic plants like Hydrilla and Vallisneria, the male flowers are completely submerged in water. On maturity, they get detached and float on the surface of water. The female flower also floats on the surface of water with the help of its long stalk. When a male flower moving with the water current comes in contact with the female flower, the pollen grains fall on the stigma. Then pollination takes place. Children, now let us wind up. I hope all of you understood all the explained topics well. We will continue the second part of this chapter, fertilization in flowers, in the next video. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.